POV, you're a housing market, and despite gaining a massive amount of value over the past 2 years, things seem steady and everything is right in the world until things are not. If you think I'm talking about today's housing market, I was actually talking about the 2008 housing market. Massive gain of between 2 to 3 years, steady flat growth, and then a massive drop. We experienced something similar by this massive COVID boom. And then, yes, we did have a little bit correction, but all accounts are telling us now we're going to be kind of in the flat area for a bit. So are we destined to follow the same course as our ancestors and experience a massive drop in value, or are things going to be different? Hello guys, my name is Javy, and today how we're going to be doing this is we're going to be doing a few things. We're going to be looking at home buyer stories in 2006 to 2008 and compare them to the home buyer experiences that are being experienced now. And I also want to follow along their journey and see if they survived or if they didn't survive the crash and the increase again. So that way we can know how we're going to be able to survive this time around. Not for the people that are buying now, but the people that bought in the last 2 or 3 years. So let's get the ball rolling. Our first story comes from Deb9266, posted 5 years ago on Reddit. Bought October 2007 for $80,000 off the listing price in Florida. Was underwater from 2009 to 2017 and sold in 2018 for a small profit. We didn't live in the house the whole time, and it was used as a rental after we had to move for a new job. Buying the house wasn't the best financial decision we made, but it would have been worse if we were really leveraged. So some similarities I'm already seeing from today and then is actually right now, if you're buying a house, you're experiencing this. You're experiencing massive price drops from listings, or if you're not, at least I'm encouraging people right now, if you are one of the people that are buying because of certain situation, then try to buy as low as possible. So in this case, even though they bought it for $80,000 under the list price, they were still underwater 2009 to 2017. And that makes sense because looking at the monthly median sales price, at least here in Phoenix, we see that bought in 2007 was near around the peak. It's interesting though that, 2017, 2018, that's about the same price. That totally tracks. But they decided to sell 2018 and 19 when they had a little bit of growth. So really the best case scenario for them was to have bought it as cheap as possible, to really buy under this so we not have to wait so long. So things must have been really, really overly valued in that specific area that he was buying. Another thing I like about this story is they didn't live in the house the whole time. They used it as a rental after they had to move for a new job. And that's the thing that you have to remember. Buying a house, people look at it as like this slot machine investment, or they want to make a ton of money. And if you look at the medium sales price, and once again, I'm looking in Phoenix, every market is different. We gained a lot of value, not like other people. If you were to buy a house like here and you sold here, like the slot machine, it's triggering all the right hormones in your brain to say, hey, I did it, right? But the thing about it is there's always like this idea that if I would have done it, I would have made so much money. If I would have invested in Bitcoin when it was here and sold it here, I would have made a ton of money. And that's so easy to say in hindsight, right? But we just don't know. So we need to really stop looking at houses as an investment, or more or less a dangerous slot machine investment, and look at it more as a house. Like you're buying a house because you have your principles and values lie in you like owning where you live, not renting. And in this case, they eventually did have to move, but they didn't get rid of it. They didn't take a loss at it. They took it as a rental. Now, I'm sure they were not as profitable every year. I'm sure that there was a period of time where they took a little bit of a loss, or they were just like maybe making just enough to pay off the mortgage. It wasn't an amazing investment by any means, but they got to the point where they could have held on to it for the long term. Now, here's the thing. If they wouldn't have sold it and they would have held on to it for like 30 years to actually pay off the mortgage, then it could have turned into something pretty nice. Like if they kept an eye on it, eventually when prices settled and they were at a point where they were at a profit, maybe they could have refinanced it and gotten a lower rate or something. Then they could have held on to it and turned it into something. But this idea of us owning our house and having it, selling it, whenever is no use to us, is honestly an idea that we need to start getting rid of. Even let's look at the term a starter home. Someone recently commented on my recent video and I think it was amazing. But let's look at that term, starter home. Who do you think made that term up? Let's be honest. Probably people who sell houses. Oh, this is just a starter home. We'll get you a bigger one 2 to 3 years from now. No, a house is a house. Let's hold on to it for a long time. There's no starter home. The only one that benefits is their agent and the lender, everyone who's making money off you selling and buying. So let's not look at starter houses or second house or third house. Let's look at houses that are good for our needs, and let's not go make these like unwise decisions to just let's see if we can make a bunch of money like a slot machine. And instead, let's look at it through, hey, should we buy a house because it's in our core values to have to own our piece of property instead of paying a landlord who can increase the price at moment's notice. Our second story comes from the same thread by Tolemori on Reddit. Bought our starter home for $195,000. Shit old house, right around the top of the boom. We got it at less than market and saw it raise another $20K. Then the crash happened. By the worst of it, our house was supposedly worth about $72K. Thankfully, I had a stable job. We had a 30-year fixed mortgage, but also a balloon payment for an interest-only loan coming up. About $20K left on that. I actually screwed up and got stuck with this interest-only loan. I was dumb. I didn't understand anything. I specifically told my lending agent I didn't want an interest-only loan, but he did it anyways as part of an 85-15-5 loan, and I didn't pay enough attention to realize what it was. I just needed a home. I was saved and was able to pay this balloon off before it was due. I ended up buying another house at the bottom of the market and moved, but kept our old house as it was worth less than I paid for it. The original starter home is now a paid-off rental income investment property. Both properties have rebounded at this point quite a bit. The original property bought during the boom is worth about $240K now. Only possible because my career was steady, all this, and I'm super cheap. Now, a few things to note right away. There's that toxic starter, I don't want to call it toxic, but that mindset that we need to start getting rid of, right? Starter home. And I'm sure he was really influenced by the agent, by the lender, and that's like the kind of mindset that you got going on. But they bought at the top, and they saw an increase, and that's might be in a situation that you see. If you are able to buy because of your negotiation skills something really cheap, you might see a small boom if something does crash in the near future. But two things mentioned in the story is thankfully I had a stable job, and at the bottom, only possible because my career had been steady through all of this, and I'm super cheap. So this person made this decision when their life was already stable, right? And I know it's a very privileged point of view. Oh, I have a stable career. But let's face it, there's points of our life where we're still trying to figure out, you're going to job to job. If you haven't quite figured out what you're going to do for the rest of your life, maybe buying a house isn't for you. This person is the perfect situation because yes, he or she bought and didn't make the best decisions, got himself in an interest-only loan and, didn't quite understand everything they were signing. They trusted their lender and agent and got them in a position that they weren't comfortable with, but he just kind of accepted responsibility and just rocked with it, right? They bought a house when things went down and they held on to that house despite everything. What I love about this too is they turned it into an income investment property. And right now, especially over the last few years, there's been a lot of salesy guys who are like, in my opinion, screwing over the population with this whole idea that, get rich off investments. Real estate's a perfect investment opportunity. Dude, anybody with some bag of money can have made a lot of money over the past 10 years. Like you did not have to be smart at all. A lot of realtors, including myself, that are so dumb, including myself, we helped someone buy in 2015. They sold in 2022. They made a lot of money. Is it because I'm a genius Chad that knew everything? No, it's the market. Everyone's super a genius in the bull market, right? But this person got stuck in a bad position, and because of the stable career, just got it paid off and turned it into a small rental opportunity. Now, they're not going to go take the money bag and go sell it right away. They're keeping it as a stable income. So that way, if something happens with their career or they have some bump in the road, they always have that to fall back on. So big thing to compare it to what's going on today is we definitely right now there's a lot of houses selling under list price. So you might find yourself in a situation where you might get a quick windfall of equity. But if things go down, know that because of the decisions you made today, if you are buying because your income is stable, your job is stable, you have the savings, you have everything set up already. And granted, those requirements are definitely a lot higher right now because interest rates are higher, but you will survive anything that happens. And for everyone else, if there is a crash that goes down, well, you can definitely enjoy the lower prices. Here's from another post that I found interesting, a little bit different topic, but basically the post says, how would you buy a home in 2007 and 2008? Just talking about that, and people are sharing their story. A pretty decent post, but the one I liked is this one right here. The Hanging Chad, interesting name. If you buy a house that's sufficient enough to be a forever home, you can afford the payment long term. Then you have less to worry about. The people I know that got burned were the ones who bought a 2-bedroom condo, which they outgrew, but only after it lost 100 to 150K in value. My buddy bought an 850K house that's worth about 600K now, but he can afford it and has no reason to move. He's annoyed and regretful, but it's not affecting his life in a drastic way. There's another example, right? This idea that was the common rule of thumb over the past 10, 15 years, where there's a house you start off with and then you outgrow and you get another one. Those times are gone. And the thing is, this person, or at least their buddy, who bought a overexpensive house and definitely took a hit on it, it's not affecting their day-to-day life because they can afford it. They have stable income. They are able to kind of manage the course. And I would say that they were in the minority. The majority of the people were the ones that didn't buy the forever home, right? They bought something that would just suit their needs temporarily, but knew that they eventually would outgrow it, right? So if you're in a situation where you have temporary needs, this is not a temporary market for a temporary house. The last 10 or 15 years, when things were rapidly or steadily growing, this was a market for a temporary house. We are no longer in a temporary house situation. We are in a forever house market. When we're talking a forever house market, we're talking you're getting houses that you're going to be in for longer term. Not looking at anything, hey, I'm going to get a small condo, then sell in 2-3 years, and then sell that in 2-3 years. And for those that lived this last 10 years, it was a great time. It was fun. We got to level up our house as we leveled up our life, but those times are gone. And anyone who's buying now, which I understand, it's a privilege to say, hey, if you can afford a home, buy it. Because right now it's unaffordable because rates are high and prices are high. But that's not going to last forever. So go in when you can afford your monthly payment. I've been saying 20 to 30% of my net income, but it doesn't matter what I say. People are always going to say, oh, I remember when that was 10 to 15%. You're just changing, dude. Like, what do you want me to say? Don't buy a house unless your payment's like 5% of your income. Like, come on. So 20 to 30% net income is what the rule of thumb is. Net income, not gross income. Work on your 3 pillars in the meantime. You check your local market to see what's going on. You're working on your savings and you're working on your current budget. You're working on these things if the time's not right. Once the time's right, we're in a forever market home. We go look for a forever house. Do not go buy temporary housing right now. It's not the time. And for those who are investor bros, I mean, those investor bros are always going to be out there trying to make their money. I'm sure there's opportunities out there. There's somebody who took advantage, I would say, of not my direct family, but I heard through some channels of like the person, they only spoke Spanish. Someone had died in the family, and I guess they knocked on the door and they said, hey, we'll help you transfer the title to your name so you can sell it. And they sold it and they got a big deal. But it was a situation where they got taken advantage of, and those investor bros are going to be around. But for everyone else, slot machine housing market is done. We are now in a long-term forever house market. And unfortunately for a lot of you, that means we're waiting. But while we're waiting, let's prepare for our time to strike eventually. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate your time. If you want to do me a favor, go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps. Go check out this video that I made to about a similar topic that I think you guys will like as well. Thank you guys. Have a good one.